Tune in weekly and listen to the Collateral Damage podcast, where Michael Wilson and Maureen Cavanaugh host a variety of special guests to discuss topics and available services that will help you learn about the impact that substance use has on our lives, our families, and on our communities nationwide. Episodes and listening information can be found at www.cdpodcast.com. You can also search for Collateral Damage Podcast on your favorite listening platforms or watch previous and future episodes on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and share. And now, please enjoy part 2 of our special 2-part episode.
Yeah.
So you're a poet.
I'm a poet.
You're a poet.
And he knows it. I couldn't resist. So the mom joke.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
So was that before when you were active? Was that also happening, or is this something that recovery drew it out of you?
I was writing at a young age. So
Okay.
I grew up in a broken home, and at that point in time, for some reason, poetry just stood out to me. When I was a young kid, and I like just the metaphor, similes. You can write a piece that has a different meaning, that what the meaning is, that the reader might not, or they can interpret it in whatever way that they could. So I wrote a lot when I was younger. And then in the early stages of my addiction, I still wrote. And then at one point I was trying to be a rapper because I thought I was going to be the Tony Montana of the Oxycontin game, which was delusional because I was a monkey that sold bananas and not really a good one at that. But so writing was just something that I had done. I have notebooks. I have notebooks from when I was 17, 18. I have notebooks from when I was in detox for one of the first times. And I struggled so bad with calling myself an addict because I was in there for Oxycontin. All these other people were in there for heroin. And I was like, I'm better than you. Yeah. I'm never going to be like you. This just got out of hand. Yeah. I will never be an IV heroin addict. Because that word, Oxycontin, right? The stigma isn't there. It's not as bad of a word. I got my education from my friends that were like, this is like taking a few perks. Oh, it's going to make you feel good. Heroin was the filthy, dirty word.
Yeah, heroin was for the people who couldn't handle oxygen.
Yeah, they couldn't afford it.
Couldn't afford it, yeah,
And
exactly.
I used to say, so I was my Oxycontin use got me to do some bad things, and I used to be a stick-up kid, and I used to claim that I would rather rob people, stores, whatever, before I ever did heroin.
Right.
And obviously that didn't happen. I ended up progressing, whatever. But I still have notebooks from when I was in detox. When I got real bad on the needle, I stopped writing because I was useless. I was pretty useless. On oxys, I still had some energy a little bit.
That's true.
Once I progressed to heroin, I was just completely useless. I didn't shower. I didn't brush my teeth. I wore the same clothes. I would ruin absolutely every spot that I lived at because I was that couch hopper that at one point, I got into it at a young age. So I still had a large group of people that knew I was struggling, but would still give me the benefit of the doubt. So I'd hop on a couch. All of a sudden needles were being found in the cushion, or they walk in the back. The kid would walk in on me shooting up. So I quickly burnt these bridges until I ended up with no money, no clothes. And, I just hit my bottom, the place where I was just fed up. I was trying to get high to not wake up. And thank God, I shot heroin and not fentanyl, the stuff that's out there today. Because I probably wouldn't be sitting in the seat right now if that's what was going on back then. But for me, when I got clean, I was in this program called the Hamilton House, and you were either paroled to this place or that was your last ditch effort before you went to jail. So there were guys that were 6'5", just did a 10-year bid, coming in the house jacked.
Right.
And I'm 21. I am 100, I don't know, anywhere from 130 to 150 pounds, soaking wet. All the confidence that the drug gave me, where I thought I was this bad drug dealer, stick-up kid. I had this street rep that I clung to when I was younger, out the window, because now I'm just this insecure, scared little boy that I don't communicate well. I really, on a personal level, I don't communicate my emotions, what I'm going through, and my struggles. Right. So I couldn't go to the 6'5", monster of a man, being like, buddy, I'm having a bad day. You want to talk about it?
I mean, you could.
I could have. Yeah. It was
probably hard.
Crippled with fear over things that. And we ended up getting notebooks for a group that we would do. We would do a group every day, 6 to 7. And not that I always paid attention in those groups, but what I did do is I had my notebook and I would just sit down and I started writing again. And it was trash, but it felt good just to get the things out there.
Right.
And I was in such a bad situation with like my family at the time that it was easy to like apologize to them without actually gaining the courage to like, you know, Dad, I'm sorry I stole this from you, or I lied to you. Mom, I'm sorry that like this had happened, or I, you know, whatever the case is. It was easier for me to put it on a piece of paper and just write it out until I built the confidence to actually do it, or to actually like, you know, eventually like I stopped apologizing because apologies was so empty because they were always attached to some sort of conditions for me. So like I told him like my footwork was going to be my biggest apology. I was going to put the action in. I wasn't going to, you know, try to get out of this or borrow this or lie for that. But like the poetry was really like you could catch me on the train, taking the train to work, and I'd have a notebook with me. Really? Yeah. I actually lost one working in Harvard, and I'm really pissed because I felt like there was some good stuff in there. Not that I have any recollection of what I wrote, but like I would sit at lunch and I would write. Then I would sit on the train and I would write. When I got I got a BlackBerry, which I thought I was like, you know, awesome to have something I could.
At the time, you probably were.
I felt like it. I felt like it. It was early recovery, and I got this little BlackBerry, so I used to just sit on the train and just write poems. And I've been doing that now, you know, since I got clean, so for 13 years. And it's like a timeline of the struggles. It shows the ebbs and flows of my life. It shows like some of the darkest times, like relationship struggles. And it's not just with recovery. And what's funny, so like poetry springboarded me to get clean and was a huge therapeutic tool. Then I resented being called a recovery poet, even though like the majority of the stuff I wrote was that. But I can write about love, relationships, my kids, just what goes on in the world. I used to hate when people would call me a recovery poet. Like resents.
They put you in a box.
Yeah, they stuck a stereotype on me and they trapped me in this box, and I hated it. And because I would do recovery events, but like, you know, the fellowship for me, it turned into like open mics, performing. So like the creative arts gave me exactly what you got out of the fellowship. I was around creative people. It gave me a spot that I could express myself. I built these connections, and like there's this feeling that I get when I perform a piece on stage that like is a freeing feeling. You know what I mean? Like it helped build up my confidence, my self-esteem. It gave me a voice, a confident one at that. Where like when I was younger, the drugs gave me all the confidence. When I was sniffing OCs, if Mike Tyson wanted to fight, I thought I could take him. Sure. The hottest girl in class, I'm going to go hit on her because like I had that confidence now.
The most confidence.
The most.
Opiates give you the most
confidence. So now, you know, going through early recovery in a halfway house, then moving to a sober house, just being around different people like that I, you know, at times I didn't feel comfortable with, just expressing myself, getting into like the scene of Boston's poetry scene. I was never judged for being an addict. And I was kind of like an outcast in the sense of like, there's a different, it's like, there's not many addicts, first off. There's not many people that get on stage and talk about poems where they're shooting heroin and smoking crack and stealing. So that was one, you know.
I'm kind of surprised to hear that, I guess.
There's been more. Yeah. There's been more in recent time. But when I first.
Because pain and angst. Like
exactly. That's what it is. So a lot of times, like the spots I would go to, I might have been the only white person there.
Okay.
And there's a lot of like, I forget the acronym, but there's like a lot of lesbians and gays because, again, it's rooted in pain. Right. Like poetry is rooted in pain. And they've had their own struggles trying to find their name, find their place. They've been separated from, you know, certain people who have their beliefs. And like, it was a community that like brought me in and like being around those creative people, it like pushed my skill level. Wow. You know what I mean? And ultimately I ended up traveling like the country doing these things. So I'd do the recovery thing. And then like I'd host an open mic. I started hosting hip hop events. Like the arts music scene of Boston really was like just something that I thrived in, that I enjoyed. I enjoyed connecting with people. I enjoyed hearing somebody's piece and then going home for a couple hours and like, I got to write one better than him. So I'm going to come back and I'm going to crush him in a poetry slam at the Lizard Lounge on a Sunday night.
That's awesome.
And it was like, it was really just
what a way to get pulled into a new community. Yeah. Just feel like you belong again, right?
And I didn't know anybody. And I went by myself to most of these things. Like the first time I ever shared on an open mic which we're going to hear some poetry from you later today.
Yeah, there's going to be something.
But the first time I ever performed, I had a piece of paper in front of my face. I read through the piece of paper into a microphone in front of 4 people.
Yeah.
Terrified. Absolutely terrified.
Shaking.
Yeah, the first time I ever like shared it to somebody outside of like the friends that I had. That I used to talk their ear till it bled over like, yo, you got to hear this. Like, I just wrote this nice piece. Tell me what you think.
Because you're exposed. You're exposed
right.
when you do that.
You
know?
Without any of that
like,
protection.
It's like all this stuff that's going on in your head.
It's out there.
Yeah.
And I'm a very personal writer. And a lot of like parents enjoy my writing because it gives like a first person perspective of like what their kid's going through. You know what I mean? Like I talk about the struggles of like, I want to get clean, but I want to get high. You know, just when I was in those different periods of time that like, it's not on a mother, it's not on a father for it. It's like this internal struggle that we deal with. And then we tug on the heartstrings of everybody close to us to manipulate them for whatever we need.
Right.
And, you know, but with the poetry, it gave me the voice, it gave me the platform.
Gave you a tribe, man.
Yeah. And
gave you a tribe to connect to.
Exactly. And in turn, like I've seen a lot of other people in recovery that were like, oh, I write, but I never like shared it. And it's cool to hear that like I help them gain confidence to get it out there. Right. You know what I mean? To like step outside of those like, you know, the comfort zone to try to grow as a person. And that's really what poetry did. And ultimately, like in September, the first time I performed was in front of 4 people reading through a piece of paper. In September, thanks to Maureen got me on stage to what? How many people were at Recovery Fest?
I think 8,000.
8,000. I've heard higher numbers. I've heard
higher numbers.
I've heard 10,000 people who.
And
all I know
is
there was an entire flood of people, and like I have this call and response piece called Miracle, where I get the crowd to chant Miracle and have 8,000 people say Miracle on cue.
Big stuff. And
I'm like, I usually have a straight face and I try to emphasize the pain in my voice and I'm on stage cheesing. Yeah. I could not, I was so happy. I remember backstage, I got a text that they're like, yo, they're chanting your name. Like there was a lot of people from Massachusetts that came. Like it was one of the, like, I've grinded, whether it was working and helping people, whether it was poetry, like I've busted my ass and like, just like with sharing my story with recovery, like poetry was a lot of times made a joke. Like I was made light of when I'd be like, oh, I'm doing this open mic and trying to share this poetry. And coming from where I come from, like the group of kids I hung around with, a lot of them were like, you know, you're a poet, roses are red, violets are blue. Yeah, that's exactly it. But like they kind of like, you know, took it as a joke. And my father told me it was a waste of time, that I need to just work and work and work. And, you know, some other people that didn't want me sharing.
It's hard for people to support the arts. They want to see you make a living, make something yourself. But the arts is really that's that thing, man. That's everybody needs an art.
But I'm not where I'm at if it wasn't for the poetry. If it wasn't for Poetry Banyan Treatment Center, it wouldn't be in Massachusetts.
That's your art too?
No, absolutely. But it stems from like the days of building like a following, to getting people to relate, to putting these words that I write when I'm alone that help me out into the world where other people can relate to them and take it however they want to take it. Right. You know, it's really insane looking back that like I would write, you know, just by myself, whatever I was going through, pain, anger, love, happiness, joy, gratitude, all the things. And like it's gotten me to this point where I'm at today, that like I have a life I never pictured I have. Like I'm beyond grateful. And it stems from like putting the drugs down, getting clean, being in recovery. And a lot of it has to do with like these little words that rhyme that I write. And like I'm beyond blessed. Like I'm beyond blessed to sit here with Maureen, and she's giving me credit when she's the one that puts all the hard work in to help her get started. You know what I mean? Like I just try to support people. You know what I mean? Like I want to see everybody succeed, and I genuinely do. Like even people from my past I had problems with. Like I still want to see them. I still want to see them succeed. Like I like life I took for granted for a long time, and I didn't see like the possibilities that we could have. And I had this like, you know, just this cage type of mentality, this You can't step outside a certain thing. You can't grow to a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
And I really believed that was real for a long time.
Well, you did live in a box.
Yeah.
You lived in a box that had limits.
Yeah.
And you were never going to get outside of those limits if things stayed the same way. So like you just said, I mean, we talked earlier about who you were, or who I was while we were active. And that's not the same person today. And it's interesting because I know a lot of people who have only met me today.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, and Maureen, you're one of them. You're one of them. Like, you don't know me. You know, I don't know you. When you were active, I kind of do, because I'm pretty sure we did the same stuff. But like, you know, the families and stuff that meet me, they only know this me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And so when I talk about the other me, they're like, "Oh, it couldn't have been that bad." I'm like, "No, you just don't really know, though." You know, like
that's it. We're well put together these days.
Well, we also didn't have Facebook and social media. Like,
thank God.
Like, if we had the technology we had today, I'm pretty sure you'd be able to look back and be like, "Oh, that's I get it." Yeah. But you know that you're talking about like the kind of person you are today, right? Like, you're a good person, you're compassionate, you're empathetic, you have the ability to share, you have the courage to be open about what's happening inside of you. Like that was always who you were. Do you know what I mean? It was dampened by your addiction. It was pushed down deep because you didn't know how to express it, or you didn't know how to be you. And I guess that's the thing with everybody that's out there struggling with addiction, is that they are, for the most part, amazing people, creative people, artistic people, you know, people who, if they were able to get clean, sober, and build that foundation and then start their recovery process, like, there's just an amazing person, and they're waiting to be seen and heard and talked to. And
some of the most talented people that I've ever come across struggle with substance abuse, struggle with drugs. And you're talking, you know, another thing that correlates to me, like, I don't have an education because I was doing oxys and shooting dope.
Different kind of education.
Yeah, different education. But that education that I learned, like, you can still hustle into positive things. Like, I know top real estate people that were drug addicts, and now they're multi-million-dollar earners. I know car salesmen that like are the top of their car company, because like we have this work ethic. If you take what it takes to get high every single day and take that same type of effort and to put it into something positive, there is that the possibilities are endless with what you can do with it.
Right.
You know, I have friends that own contracting business, that develop musicians, actors, comedians. Like, you put the drugs down, like, you can, there's so much more you can accomplish. And that's one of the things that I try to get through to people, whether it's at my center or people that I try to help out there, is that they're made for something so much more than like a life of being homeless, a drug addict, or sitting at the end of the bar, like drinking your life away. Like, you're meant for so much more if you can just, like, you know, step outside of that box. If you can step outside of that, you know, the normalcy that chaos becomes. You know what I mean? Like, you literally could be anything in this world.
That's very true. You know, I work in a recovery high school, and next year, as part of their classes, I'm putting together like a business development because I see this, and I see it in you guys, of course, and I see it in lots of other people that I know that had a really rough start and turned it around, and it becomes they take all they did to maintain drugs, or to sell drugs, or to keep from, you know, being sick, that running, and put it into business. And they're amazing at what they do. So I want to bring that into school before, and hopefully they don't have to go through all of that. But I see it with a couple of kids that are in there even now, that they're like, they're either going to go really bad, or they're going to own their own business and be spectacular.
Yep.
And I'd like to have them be spectacular before they have to go through all that.
Exactly.
They just need an outlet.
Yeah.
They just need a place. Like, they need that tribe thing I was talking about earlier. Like, when I got it in the fellowship, you got it from, you know, the poetry environment and all those other people where you shared pain. And, you know, as parents and families, you get it from support groups and stuff like that. You get to tribe up. And when you do that and you realize you're not alone in this thing, and all of a sudden you start to just focus your efforts,
it's incredible.
I mean, people are capable of amazing things.
Right. And not everybody needs to go to, you know, Harvard to do that.
No.
Right?
I didn't go to Harvard.
No. And I mean, you're two of the smartest guys I know. It just, it's not the same for everybody, you know what I mean? Not everybody needs to do that.
Yeah.
No. You just need to bring what you got to the table.
Let's hear some poetry.
Poetry.
I noticed Mike's not like Russian.
I sat with Mike last week.
I'm gonna do a read through a piece of paper to two people.
Hey, that's all it is, man. But I sat with you last week, and you told me that you had some poetry, And then you're like, oh, if you come on the podcast, I'll share it. I'm like, all right, I'll be there Monday.
Okay, put me
Let's
right
get
out
this.
there.
Let's get this going right away.
Yeah.
Well, I've
So
seen a
I'll be
little.
in the-
He sent me a little of it once, and it's good.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
So,
And
I
haven't read it,
this
though.
is the thing. Like at my center, I do like a poetry group.
Okay.
And everybody's like, oh, no, like it's poetry, whatever. And then you hear the things that they write.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Right.
Like it is absolutely insane how talented people are, but they just they haven't even explored it to the point. I have a folder with just poems of like former clients, or I'll group them up and make them all write together.
Okay.
And like there's just like absolutely amazing things. And it's one of those forms of art that I feel like a lot of people will write, not necessarily share it though. They'll keep little, maybe here and there they'll write a poem or something like that. For me, it's always in like the most excruciating pain that I'm going through is when like the best.
My hands are sweating. I haven't even done anything. Yeah, I'm just sitting in my thoughts right now thinking about this. My hands are sweating.
Do you want to go first? Do you want me to do something?
I'll just do one. That's fine. I'll just do the thing.
Okay.
Let's see. How about all right, this one's called A Prayer. All right. Let's see if I'm in the right spot here. So it says, why can't I see what I was meant to be? Why won't you say why you made me this way? If you wouldn't answer for someone with cancer, why would you listen to me? Help me be what I know I can be. Where are you now? What color is that cow? What number am I thinking? What soda am I drinking? I'm so full of doubt what you're all about. I can't understand why you don't lay a hand on someone like me to help me see and guide me through life, provide kids and a wife. It's so hard alone. Show me a sign. Oh, you need a hand? Here, take mine. That's what I hear when I'm so full of fear. The voice isn't yours, burns and abhors. My mind and my soul tell me it's wrong, but my heart is torn and I hear this song. I follow his lead, but I beg and I bleed. I can't stand the pain. This life is insane. So please come and save me from you know who. I can't do it alone, not without you. I need you so bad for a life I never had. So come into my heart and take over your part. Give me the life I deserve. Amen.
Get it.
One down. One down.
First time ever.
Boom.
You did
Putting it out there.
I felt weird.
It gets easier.
It does get easier.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, that was
Thank you.
good.
Thank you. All right. Want one more?
Yes.
One more, and then I want to hear one of yours too. So this one is called Better Off Alone. I can't stand the pain. My mind feels like pudding. I'm lost in the rain and I'm losing my footing. The ground's coming loose under my feet. My flagrant drug use pulling me down deep. 6 feet away from my family and friends, not even for fun, just a means to an end. No reason why I cheat and I lie, just the way life is when you're ready to die. Nothing feels good unless you're high. Feels like no one cares and you don't know why. Every day feels the same when you're lost in the game, the struggle to get high and not ruin your name. Everyone you know can see it but you, the pain and the struggle that you're going through. They all want to help pull you out of your hole, but your mind feels like mud and your heart is like coal. Feelings feel fake, but they won't go away. They keep building up for that one special day when you're all out of drugs and you're looking for hugs, and the people you've ignored have all turned away. You can't understand why no one takes your hand. They've all disappeared just as you feared. So why not get high, create a new lie? You don't need them anyway. You can make it another day. Doing what you do now, reality comes back. You make a new pact to never ask for help again, to live a life full of sin. Since no one will do what you want them to do when you want them to do it, so screw it. You do it better alone. No car and no home. Who are they to say that they know a better way? Why should I try to live out their lie since I do it better alone?
Get it. How's it feel?
That's
you
it.
Shaking?
I felt good. No, the second one felt great.
Get it.
That's it. One more, I'm going to be in front of a crowd somewhere screaming it. I like that.
Yeah,
that feels good.
Doesn't that feel good?
It doesn't.
That feels awesome. The second one, I started to feel it. That was good. I wasn't even looking at you guys. You weren't even here.
You're like,
I was just back when I was writing that.
Wait until you start getting the reactions from people and them saying,
oh, it's amazing.
oh my God, that really hit home with me. Then it'll really feel good.
Yeah.
I wrote that on a napkin. I was in an AA meeting at the Salvation Army, sitting in the back and just feeling myself. And I had, like, you know how a napkin comes folded into 4 squares? I broke that thing open and with my little, 2-inch pencil was just writing this thing out. And it was, I don't know.
How good of a feeling was it when you finished?
Reading it or writing it?
Writing it.
Writing it felt fantastic. And then I folded it up and put it away and nobody ever heard it. I didn't even read it to anybody there. Like that was
now.
Well, the
world premiere.
That's it. World premiere.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
Yeah, but I don't know, it feels good. It feels good to talk about, how it looked to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And how it felt to me at the time, even if it doesn't make sense to anybody else. And I can imagine how it must have felt, as that early in recovery reading that. I'm 9+ years in, and that was still making me uncomfortable. I couldn't imagine.
Well, it took a while for me to get out, to get out into that scene. So when I started doing it, I did videos. So I'd have a video of a poem. So I didn't have to, I'd speak it into a microphone by myself and put it up. And it ended up, I have a couple videos with over 20,000 views from 2011. And then from there, what's funny is I had a friend that had some sort of connection with a publishing company. So they're like, oh, we're going to set you up with this meeting. We're going to get you in there. Nice. So I sit down. They're like, oh, we really like your work. We're going to do it. So I signed this contract. Part of the contract was I had to perform 2 different times. Me being a psychopath that I am, I'm like, well, I'm not going to do it the first time in front of people. I need to practice because basketball, baseball, like if you're not practicing, you're not going to be that good. So I went to that open mic where I read through a piece of paper. And then I started doing it more and more and more. And unfortunately, the book deal fell through.
Oh, no.
Very discouraging. They kept me on the shelf for a while. And when I was getting high, right, I'll tell you a story. I smoked crack with this girl that swore to God she did a duet with Celine Dion.
Okay.
We're in the Mystic Project's hallway smoking crack, and you didn't sing with Celine Dion, lady. Like, you're high, right? And like I shot dope with this kid who swore to God he was signed to Eminem's record label. We were in an abandoned building in Cambridge, and the basement floor shooting heroin, and he signed to a rap deal. Not happy. No. So here I am clean at open mics talking about how I got this book deal, and then I was supposed to be on CNN at one point that I recorded a poem and gave all the rights to the poem to CNN. I signed all these documents. It was this guy that interviewed me for a radio station in Florida was supposed to have intro music. So he, instead of intro music, he wanted my poem. Thing never aired. So here I am at these open mics. I'm starting to catch a little like following. And I got really discouraged and was ready to quit.
The stories?
The stories. These stories. And fortunately, like one of my best friends believed in me when I was ready to quit, told me he refused to let me quit. And that's how I put The Shadow of an Attic out. He loaned me some money to get the first 500 copies. Sold 500 copies. Bought more, sold more, and here I am drug dealing books, meeting people for $15, sliding it out the window. But it was cool.
I got you, bro.
Yeah, but what was cool about that is I got to meet these people that follow me from all over the state. That just like they saw my work on Facebook, so I actually had the person interaction.
Got to give them the book.
And then I also included there's a page in it dedicated to like people that were lost. And the book was finalized in like 2012. So like I had fans that just like sent people or like friends that would give me names of people that passed away. And literature, I feel like lasts forever. So, it's like a little token of gratitude to the people that support me.
Can people still buy it?
Yeah.
Where's it available?
You got to reach out to my Facebook page right now. You can get the ebook on like iTunes, Amazon and stuff like that. But any resale copy is ridiculous. I'm not charging $60 for a beat up book, but I guess people are finding them on eBay for like a lot higher. It's $15 if I meet you for it.
Right.
It's $20 if I got to mail it to you. But if you just look up Matt Ganem the poet, shoot me a direct message. I can make the arrangements to ship them out. And I try to donate a bunch of them. I've sent them to treatment centers. I have funny stories of like dropping people off to detox. I was at High Point and one of the therapists came out and she had printed out copies of my poems. And she's talking to me, wishing me good luck as I go into detox. Right. As I'm with somebody, I'm bringing, I'm like, oh yeah. She's like, oh, you ever heard of this kid, Matt Ganem? I'm like, oh yeah, what do you think of him? Oh, his poetry's phenomenal. I just did a group on it. Oh,
that's great.
That was me. You want some more books? I got them in the car. And,
that's huge.
It's just cool. I've moments like that have been pretty cool.
That's awesome, man.
You want me to share a couple pieces? Have you ever heard anything?
I have not yet. I have not. No, this is all fresh for me too.
Good.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
I'll share the broken system. So when the bridge was closed down, and we saw the increase in overdoses since that time, I ended up writing this rant. And I was given the 2015 Recovery Advocate of the Year Award in Massachusetts. Wow. And I'm pretty sure it stems a lot from this poem.
Okay.
Charlie Baker was doing his little town hall listening parties or whatever. So at the State House, and I was just going to tell my story or what I saw, like the gaps in treatment where like, I feel like we have enough detox beds, CSS and halfway houses for longer treatment and guarantee a longer stay in the short term. But, advocacy nonsense. Something pissed me off during that. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to do the broken system in front of 700 people in there, staring Charlie Baker down into his soul.
Yeah.
Knowing that, like, if I screw up, I'm probably never, ever performing ever again. I'm going to walk out tuck tail, which it happens from time to time. I have a brain fart and forget words. I might forget this poem right now. But I did it. And after it, I said, we are worth it. And everybody went absolutely crazy.
Wow.
And
that must have been nice.
Yeah, it was a cool feeling. And this is it was a poem that I did at Recovery Fest too. Okay. That it's just a rant. Really, I've ran a lot. And this is, one of the forms. But when I got high, it was to escape the pain of hurting. Explaining the addiction to a normal person is like a woman with no kids explaining the pain of birth. Let me break it down to you. These 4 to 5 day spin washes aren't working. We need to scrap the Massachusetts model of treatment and come up with a better version, because these suits and ties would rather close their curtains, ignoring the state's overdose rate is continuously surging. These politicians must be living in a fairy tale. At times trying to get into a detox like a dog chasing its own tail. The system is set up for us to fail to the point. Sometimes it's easier to go detox in jail. Call the programs up to here. We got no beds. Then when you do get into detox, they load you up with enough meds until the entire unit looks like a night of the living dead. A 4 to 5 day escape from the day-to-day, a safe place to stay. But there's no beds in aftercare programs, so the decision gets made to hand you a list and send you on your way. Back to the same old same. Those 4 days, it's going to fix the years of pain, years of strain, years of sniffing pills to push your poison in your veins. Addiction is like a ball and chain, a slave whenever it calls your name, weighing yourself down until they bury you in the grave. And then when you do hit the streets, further treatment is just out of reach. So you keep it dirty urine instead of being clean. Recovery's only seen in the better parts of your dreams, living the nightmare, transforming into a fiend. And there's not a soul alive that can hear you scream. But you know what you need. Even though the sickness got a trick up its sleeve, it starts whispering in your ear till you start to believe that you got a grip. You can handle your disease. Till I find your buddy dead with an empty IV. Another number, another statistic added to thousands this year. One thing remains clear as I bury more and more of my peers than most people out there don't really care until it's one of their loved ones added to the prayers. A Facebook wall covered with love. Rants and raves about we all hate this drug. I think it's getting a little too overcrowded up above. Heaven needs to start taking my people. The origins of this epidemic is seen through pharmaceutical companies gave birth to a generation addicted to the needle. Legal drug dealing doctors influenced by money as pure evil. Flood the streets with painkillers, then you pull them off the market to make it easier to transition into heroin when the withdrawals hit the hardest. I don't even think we face the worst part of it. I sit here with a heavy soul, broken-hearted, praying for the daily departed and those that are lost will find their light inside of the darkness, coming out clean on the other side. I want to spark a rallying cry that might save a few lives. Every day another angel flies while an entire community mourns while saying their goodbyes. All I can do is try to prove to you that it's worth staying alive.
God, I didn't have to follow it.
That's why I offered you.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. That was great. So that was right to
that was to everybody at the State House. That was that's like one of my favorite pieces, just because it goes, it's a lot of politicians will use the recovery thing as like a springboard to try to make it like they're gonna make some change. And unfortunately, Charlie Baker had all these things, and the first thing he did, and what the first act he did when he stepped into office? I do not. Cut substance abuse funding. Ouch. After he did a whole tour of it. And I'm not going to go into a rant on political things, but he's not the only. There's other people that will emphasize addiction, treatment, and then all of a sudden on the back burner once they get elected. Right. And again, who speaks up? We're a community that doesn't really have a voice. And even if you look at like public detox workers, program workers, they can't speak. They have like a muzzle over their mouth because their job is at stake because they're publicly funded. So like they can't push against the system.
Even a lot of nonprofits. They're getting state funded because they're afraid they're going to get their funding cut.
Exactly. So it's like, for me, not the poem and what it symbolizes, but like in that period of time, there was a bunch of like different hearings at the State House that I would go to and go on like these crazy rants to state reps. I did one where I think the rep was, is there a rep for Beverly Salem? A female? Do you know? I forget the girl's name.
Lovely.
Maybe.
Joan Lovely.
Hey, in 15 minutes, we came up a list with like 50 people, right?
Wow.
And again, why I say heroin addict is that effect.
Mm-hmm.
I read off the 50 names one by one at a hearing of people that me and the 3 people I was with came up with in like 15 minutes before I went up to speak.
Wow.
And then I was like, how would you feel like if your son was on that list, if your daughter was on that list? Yet we're consistently put on the back burner.
Yeah.
Yet Ebola affected 4 people in the entire United States, and they got $4 to $6 billion in funding.
And they shut down flights in and out of the country for days.
How many people died a year? 75,000 at this point? 80,000? Do we even know the real number?
No, we know
we
know the number that people report.
I know Massachusetts overdose death rates don't include Boston, Brockton, and Worcester.
Really?
Yeah, the major cities aren't included in whatever their overdose statistics were.
I didn't know that.
That was how it was 1 or 2 years ago. I don't know if that's changed since, but like the major cities weren't included for some stupid reason.
Well, how many people do you know that are in a nursing home or in a wheelchair or have traumatic brain injury?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, or they die driving behind the wheel, and it's an accident that they're not off at the wheel at. What about endocarditis, diseases that come with it? Like there's so much more than just like overdose death.
Right.
Yep.
So like, again, that poem was kind of like a smack upside the head, and I stayed
I
right
really like that. That's good.
Charlie, I would not let him look anywhere else. I was like,
well, you could read that. You could read that,
yeah,
or you could like. But I'm saying, like, if I read that, I'd be like, "Oh, that's nice."
Yeah.
But hearing it,
is
a different animal. You know what I mean? Like having that read to you or at you, that's a thing, man.
Yeah.
I felt that.
Yeah.
I felt like maybe I would have been uncomfortable if you were reading that to me, and I had anything to do with that decision or that industry, because you're
Charlie
able to.
Baker also has like an insurance background. Like he has other things that are also like part of the issue that we face with trying to get treatment or help. You know what I mean?
The whole thing. I mean, the broken system, I think, is something we talk about all the time, and it's there's advocates that are out there trying to create new bills and stuff like that. There are local people, like you said, that, I mean, they probably as a person want to affect so much change, like they care.
But it's hard for them because.
But then they get into the system and realize that what they're pushing against, and that their job is at stake, funding is at stake, their ability to do other things becomes at stake. And it's a machine, man. It is a big machine.
And it is slow as molasses.
Right.
Whenever change is supposed to come, whenever a bill's supposed to be put to the test, then they make an announcement like, hey, this happened. Like, what was it? Not to wear the advocate hat right now, but the detox and CSS guarantee.
Oh, the parity thing?
14 to 21 days was supposed to be guaranteed.
It's not a thing.
Yeah,
it's cool. It's cool, and it's great to do a publicity stunt where it's like, this is going to happen. But on the 5th day, when insurance cuts you and there's no CSS bed, sorry, buddy, see you later, you're out the door.
Right.
And yet there's no repercussions or anything. Insurance companies are denying it, and they're not being held accountable. You know what I mean? Like there's so many levels to something as small as that, which I remember when it came out, it was supposed to be like a big victory. And no facility was held accountable for it. And there's also like when you have, it's not the easiest to just enact something, because you're talking like people that write bills have never been to detox. Like they are trying to dictate things that they have absolutely no clue about. Yeah. And you can take a couple of like select people and try to get there, but like you don't have that in-depth that like somebody who's gone through the system, somebody who works. Like it was always an issue with me. Like, why wouldn't you pull somebody from Boston Cab that sees the ugliness of it and that sees the problems of like what's going on there to try to like fix it or do something to make a change that's going to benefit. And I've even tried to break down like the financial aspect of it. How many detoxes did you go to?
15.
Yeah. I went to a crazy amount in the short amount of time. And if we guarantee, or if we came up with enough treatment in the beginning, right, where they got 6-9 months,
right,
financially, you know how much it costs to send somebody to 6 detoxes in a month? Every single month without further care. So I try hitting them with that, and it's like, wow, yeah, that makes sense, but whatever.
Well, you remember Senator Tolman's Heroin Oxycontin Commission?
Yeah.
So it was like 8 or 9 years ago, whatever. I went to the State House and I testified at that, and I was one of the last people to get to speak, and it was all the insurance companies got to speak first, and they were all talking about how
their policies and why they bill what they bill and why they reimburse what they do and why they only want so many days. And it just kept going and going and going. I was one of the last people to come up. And that's what I came up with. Yeah. And I came up and I'm like, listen, man, I was like, I'm just a junkie. Sorry. I called myself that, but it was true. I was like, I'm just this and I'm just this person. Right. And I'm like, and I get it. I go into detox and it's like, the question is, how little can we give this person that maybe they'll get well? I said, however, if I was a doctor and I had a license that you could hold over my head, there'd be a mandatory 90 days of treatment as well as a ton of follow-up to make sure I get well so that I can get back to my job. I'm like, so what you're saying is that I'm less valuable and that my recovery doesn't matter. And I was like, it hurts. It hurts that you won't invest in my recovery and that your goal every day, every 3 to 5 days is to reevaluate my treatment and see if you can get rid of me. So can we get rid of him?
How much money would you save if in the beginning you just gave that length of treatment that's needed, whatever point that we can come up with? Because I don't believe any treatment center statistic of success rate. I only believe that the longer you stay in treatment, whether you're at the Salvation Army, the Ritz-Carlton of rehabs, the longer you stick out a treatment plan, the better chance of success you have.
That's the answer.
That right there. And then on top of it, financially, how much does detox cost that you're paying over and over and over again, yet not granting that middle ground, right? And then you get into the middle ground. Well, how often are they getting cut, or you're not giving them as many chances, right? Compared to, hey, you're a heroin addict right now. The best possible plan for you would be a detox, a CSS, a halfway house, a detox, a 30-day program, extended IOP, recovery coach, all these things.
As much as we can come up with.
As much as possible in the initial stage, they'll be saving so much money on the back end.
Right.
Well, instead, it's a quick fix.
Well, countrywide, statewide, for every person that gets well and then comes back into the community, they're business owners, they're taxpayers, they're contributing members of society. Do you know what I mean? They're not a burden to the community anymore. They're actually adding to it. So, I mean, if we're investing in people to get them well, and then they come back into our states, cities, and communities,
then they're contributing even more so to it.
Yeah, you could perpetuate wellness. Imagine that. Oh my God.
Well, that's not a priority. That's not a priority. And that's why we all have to speak out. That's why parents have to continue to speak out, whether they're, we have a lot of parents that are talking that have lost children. And that's amazing that these people continue to
the courage it takes to get to go through that traumatizing.
But we have to have people that have children that are going through it and loved ones that are going through it and those that recover. And we have to continue to speak out because that's where our power is in effect, trying to affect change by telling people our stories. And we can't leave it, the burden can't all be on the people that are going through it or the people that have lost children. It has to be other parents and other loved ones speaking out that have seen this process.
It's funny. Well, it's not funny, and it's going to sound terrible, and I hate to even bring this stuff up, but the people who are making decisions about what we need for treatment, it's kind of like some of the other stuff that you might be seeing in the news today about big rooms full of men making decisions about what women can do with their body and stuff.
100%.
I'm like, I get it, but maybe you're not the people to make those decisions. And that's not the room full of people that should be making that decision. I feel the same way about my recovery. I feel the same way about folks like this, is that, I don't know who in an insurance company actually cares about the people they're insuring. Maybe somebody does. Maybe they do. I don't know. But all I know is that I don't believe the disembodied insurance company with a psychiatrist over a phone should be making decisions about how someone's treatment experience is going.
And do you know how many insurance companies have been found to not have a doctor making the medical decisions, that they have somebody paid at a lesser rate, though there's a license for it?
Yeah.
Somebody is a consultant, right? But they have somebody paid at a much less rate that's just going over keywords and that's making that decision. I've also heard that if you call that insurance company up and you call to get the tape on who actually went over it, that they ended up getting caught up in the fact that they had somebody trying to scam the system. Yet, if we do insurance scam, we're going to federal prison.
Well,
it's funny how that works.
It doesn't sound very ethical. No. That the same company that's paying also has somebody assessing your treatment to determine if they should continue paying. I think it should be the programs get to determine whether or not you should pay. And But anyway, that's another podcast.
Yeah.
Eventually,
That's a whole nother
Eventually what will
podcast.
happen
Hours about that stuff.
is the insurance companies will look at the return of investment, right? So they'll see that this is not working. But meanwhile, hundreds of thousands of people will die.
Yeah.
But eventually they'll catch on that it makes more sense to keep somebody in treatment for a little bit, and our government will catch on that it makes sense to support somebody in their recovery after they're done with treatment and getting a job and getting housing and all those things. But how many hundreds of thousands of people will have to die before they?
Which is insane, even to think that the number of people dying, that there's still a fight just to get the bare minimum of treatment compared to other diseases that
because there's still that moral judgment.
Think about this for a second. I had this conversation with my dad. We were smoking cigars yesterday for Father's Day. And this came up, and he was talking about how many people are dying from it. And he asked me, and I said, personally, I'm like, if kids going to school are still going to school in fear of being shot, right? Just to be clear. So kids are dying in schools. They're being shot in schools. It's happening all the time. There's mass shootings all over the place. If that's not being addressed, our kids getting shot at school is not getting addressed, then I have to believe that nobody's coming for us.
No, not at all.
that there is no chance in hell that there is a movement from the government to come and help us. Yeah. Nobody's coming. No. It's up to us. You know what I mean? And that's why I'm so excited to meet people like you and Maureen, parents, advocates, individuals, people speaking up. It is up to us. Nobody is coming. Like, there's not going to be, I'm not waiting for 2020 for the next new person to come in and do the thing. It's not happening. And it is going to take advocates. It's going to take us speaking up to them, being as loud as we possibly can and speaking up to them so that they hear us. And your poetry and your voice, I don't know if I've ever actually sat down and had somebody read poetry, but that sounded more like music to me, to be honest with you. And I felt it and I heard it and I loved it. And I got to say, I'm like super happy that you were able to come on and grateful. And I know we'll put up some links and stuff in the podcast to make sure that people can get that, because now I'm going to read that after I read Maureen's book. Yeah. So I got two.
Needs to come first.
I know.
She gave me the best description I've ever received. Called me a baby-faced tattooed thug that'll rob you and apologize while he's doing it.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, it was
sounds
the best.
About right.
I don't know if that's probably not worded right, but it's something close.
Something along
when
those
I read
lines.
the book, I'll let you know if it was right. I will tell you this: there's not going to be another one of these podcasts where I haven't read that book. That's the last time I'm going to get.
It's a really good read.
It's anybody
that watches this, like, you really need to go pick up the book.
And that's the If You Love Me, Mother's Journey. Right.
I've had people that I haven't seen in a long time reach out to me that have read the book, just because I have a couple of blurbs in it. Very grateful for that.
Nice.
Big part of my story.
Amazing, and we need a movie.
Yes, I agree.
Who would play you? Who do you think should play you?
Mark Wahlberg.
Mark Wahlberg. Okay.
Oh, that would be perfect.
I completely. The only way I'm not in that movie is if Mark.
So either you play you.
Either I'm going to
play myself. Because I'd want to play me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd have to put a wig on because I had hair back then, but I'd want to play me too. You know what I mean? I don't think anyone can play me better than me.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Especially under those circumstances.
Yeah,
Plus, he'd have to get all tatted up and stuff. I mean, I don't know if he would do that for a movie.
No. So I'll just play. I'll just play my
own part. Okay. All right. Deal.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it.
Hopefully, we'll be able to. I'm very grateful. Hopefully, we can go. I'd love to get back on. I love going at these different topics.
I love it. You're awesome.
It gives perspective, and I think a lot of people don't even realize some of the things that go on. So, getting that information and education out there, is huge. So, it's been a pleasure. Thank you guys for having me on.
Appreciate it.
Keep doing all the great things you're doing.
I love you, Ma.
Love you too, sweetheart.
All right. I would like to thank all of our listeners for joining us today on this episode of Collateral Damage. As always, if you'd like to find out all of the different ways that you can listen to and subscribe to our podcast, you can visit our website, which is www.cdpodcast.com. There are many different ways to listen, download, and subscribe, so we encourage you to choose the one that is most appropriate for you. And as always, we would encourage our listeners to get informed and stay connected. Thank you for joining us.